Donors are very excited about Senator Kyrsten Sinema running for re-election because, oh yeah, she is now as an independent. And now we're learning just who is funding her campaign this time around. Turns out it's small dollar donate. Hang on, no, sorry, no, just kidding. It's Wall Street. Yeah, it's Wall Street who's funding her. In the second quarter this year, private equity, hedge funds, venture capital executives streamed dozens of four-figure donations into the Sinema campaign, joint fundraising committee, and leadership PAC. Several donors with the private equity giant Blackstone topped up their donations to Sinema, with at least 6 giving a total of $6,600 each. Tens of thousands of dollars from her second quarter haul came from donors who work at the investment firms Montgomery Capital, First Atlantic LLC, Crescent Capital Group, and TPG Capital. This probably has nothing to do with the fact that she fought tooth and nail to preserve that carried interest tax loophole. Oh no, it has everything to do with that. Still, however, she's running behind Ruben Gallego. She raised 1.7 million in the second quarter. Total cash is on hand, 10.8 million, which is insane. But Arizona Representative Ruben Gallego, a Democrat who is challenging her, outpaced Sinema by raising more than 3.1 million in the second quarter for a total of 3.8 million in cash on hand. Okay, so that's second quarter is more, but total cash on hand is less. Gallego did, however, he does have small dollar donations. 98% of his haul is from donors who gave under just $100. So I don't know, guys. Is money enough for Sinema's campaign to rise above and speak to no one?
Yeah, in this case, probably not. But she only has one friend here, and that's mainstream media. And so I'm gonna explain why. But first, if you don't know the carried interest tax loophole, that is one of the most egregious things Washington has ever done. So it's guys in finance, private equity are pretty much the top guys in finance. And what they did was they bribed a bunch of people like Sinema legally through campaign contributions. And they got this insane law passed that now I think capital gains tax is already not the right way to go. What that says is, hey, if you're a dentist and you made a certain amount of money, we're gonna charge you the top rate, 39%, whatever it might be. But if you have an investment, we're only gonna charge you 20%. And that number fluctuates a little bit, but it's much lower, much lower than normal taxes, okay? So dentist guy, the guy who owns his own plumbing business, et cetera, you guys work your ass off and you pay the maximum because you're middle class, okay? But the richest guys in the world are gonna pay half that. Okay, now that's already bad enough for investments if you ask me, but carried interest loophole is for people who work in finance. It's not their money and it's not their investment. It's their job to invest other people's money for their return. But the money that they get for their job somehow miraculously gets taxed at the lower rate. That doesn't even try to make sense. They're like, who cares? It doesn't have to make sense. All we have to do is bribe them and then the media will cover our tracks. And so that's what they did. And Sinema is the top person that represents the corrupt politicians who do that, because Biden said, and he never meant it, but Biden was like, oh, maybe we will take away the carried interest loophole because it's deeply unpopular. The whole country despises it. Anyone who knows it and understands it goes, no, not that. It costs us, all of us taxpayers, billions upon billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, and it goes straight into the pockets of the richest people in the country, and it's grossly unfair. But when Biden suggested putting it in a package, whether you think that he meant it or didn't mean it, doesn't matter, he proposed it, Sinema said no. If you put that in the package, I will vote no, you don't have enough senators, and so they took it out of the package. So that is why all of the richest guys in finance and private equity poured in money to Kyrsten Sinema's campaign. So now, but nonetheless, Democrats know that she did that, Democratic voters. Now, normally, the establishment media covers up all Democratic crimes. But Manchin and Sinema were against most of the Democratic establishment, so they were exposed. So the media actually had to say Manchin and Sinema are the ones killing these intensely popular proposals. So the people of Arizona found out, and now they hate her, okay? But here comes the media to help, because she's gonna run against probably 2 people since she's an independent. Ruben Gallego is running against, well, now he's running the Democratic primary. She's no longer in the Democratic primary. And Gallego is on the left, and that's true. Kyrsten Sinema's the establishment. And Carrie Lake likely will run against her from the right. And so then the media goes, you see, she's right in the middle. She's a moderate, she's a centrist, but she's not. Her proposals are despised by the rest of the country. They are considered radical and are deeply unpopular. But voila, another 3-card Monty trick, and the media calls her moderate, and she seems like the reasonable one. And so I don't think it'll work at the end because of how deeply she's despised, but her only shot is to lean into her great protectors, mainstream media, and have them call her moderate 2,000 more times and see if that tricks enough people.
It's a sick avalanche of dirty money. Just it's a reminder of how screwed the system is, And I'm encouraged to hear Cenk say that she may not get there because she's certainly got the war chest. But yeah.
Yeah. I think I agree with you about the media. I think what's interesting is that they've had to criticize Democrats for the first time. Like, I think we're in a very interesting moment under Biden with Manchin and Sinema, because for the first time, establishment media has had to actually call out. They don't talk about where they're getting their money. They don't do that kind of coverage, but they do consistently say Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are stymieing President Joe Biden's agenda, and then they're kind of like hazy on the details. What I hate that the media does to Kyrsten Sinema is they have this sort of bizarre obsession with her being a cantankerous little worm. They're like, oh my God, look at this cantankerous little worm in yellow. Look at her in pink. She's just stopping progress all over the place. And they sort of spin it into this bizarre fluff piece fascination with her and being awful, which is almost worse than just kind of not criticizing her at all or not talking about her at all, So I hope as we go into this election cycle that they give Ruben Gallego a platform and given him an opportunity to actually discuss, for example, raising the minimum wage, which he absolutely is for. Arizona's minimum wage still $13.85 an hour. Sinema against a $15 minimum wage, which at this point feels low. Carrie Lake on and on about, oh, we're gonna help the American people, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't, there's nothing about healthcare on her website. There's nothing about, things like prescription drug pricing reform. Ruben Gallego is the only one who is for these things. The rest are just posturing.
Yeah, look, there is a worst case scenario here, and it is pretty feasible, which is, look, Gallego is an actual good progressive. And so he's a smart, rational guy focused on the right issues. There's not a lot of guys in Congress that I would recommend that you go out of your way to vote for or support. I've been greatly discouraged by how folks have acted in Congress, but Gallego is one of the very rare good ones. And so it's an easy choice in Arizona, super easy choice. Definitely support Gallego. But the problem is, Carrie Lake's gonna be on the right, and the right's not gonna lose a single vote to Kyrsten Sinema, right? They're just gonna be like, she doesn't even think the election was stolen. She thinks vaccines work. She thinks doctors are real. I'm voting Carrie Lake. So they're all gonna vote Carrie Lake, and then all Sinema's gonna do is take votes away from Gallego, because right now she's polling disastrously and doesn't really have a chance of winning. So then you're gonna take critical votes away from Gallego, and then Carrie Lake the lunatic's gonna win. And that might be, I hope it's not, but it certainly could be Kyrsten Sinema's parting gift to us. If all the terrible things I did on behalf of the richest people in the world wasn't bad enough, here's a steaming pile of turd I'm leaving in the Senate in my place. Thanks a lot, Sinema. What a Barbenheimer.
Yeah, definitely sort of dropping an A-bomb on progress.
Yeah, and by the way, if she does that, you know what's gonna happen? Carrie Lake's gonna vote with the private equity guys. And they're gonna keep the carried interest loophole, and maybe the planet's gonna burn, maybe the country's gonna lose democracy. But hey, the private equity guy's gonna get another tax break, okay? Because Sinema helped defeat a rare progressive Democrat. So this is how sick the corruption is and how sick our system is. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.